Georgina Wysiecki. Welcome back to the All Figured Out podcast.
Thanks for having me back. This is exciting.
This is so exciting. We are, if you're watching us on YouTube, I think it's All Figured Out Andrea on YouTube. Just like type in All Figured Out on YouTube and find us and watch us because this is going to be a good one. We are in a beautiful new studio here at EL Town Podcast Studio. Not sponsored by them. Very much pay them, but I love it here. And we've got a new studio and it is so relaxing.
Yes, and this chair, so comfortable.
It's a great chair. And Georgina likes a chair.
I do like a chair.
Her
I like
40th. Okay,
chair.
I'm putting it on blast. Georgina got Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah, I did.
For her 40th birthday.
Yeah.
She returned them.
I was appalled. So going back even further, I had tickets to Taylor Swift in Melbourne, Australia, because I was in Adelaide at the time visiting. I hurt my ankle, couldn't get on the plane to go, was devastated.
With your niece.
I know it was going to be perfect. It was sort of part of early 40th birthday present. Then when Taylor Swift was then coming to Vancouver, my husband got me tickets to go, but I was appalled at how expensive they were. And I was like, no, like I love Taylor Swift, but that is a ludicrous amount of money. So then instead returned the tickets and we actually made money, which is crazy. And instead I bought a chair.
This is All Figured Out. I'm Andrea Barr. I'm a career coach for parents, a mom of two, and I absolutely believe that you can continue to grow personally and professionally while protecting family time. We're about to figure out this work, life, and parenting stuff out together.
A chair that I sit on and enjoy.
We will put a photo of the chair.
Yeah.
We'll put a photo of the chair right here on the screen because it's a beautiful chair.
It is a beautiful chair.
It's a beautiful, timeless chair.
Yeah.
And isn't that just... It's
the Taylor Swift chair.
It's like so crazy. That whole era, the Eras tour, the era. That
so
was like,
much.
that was
in
wild.
Australia, you can't actually do that. In Australia, you can't sell tickets for more than you paid for them. What's that called when that happens? Anyway, you can't do that in Australia.
Okay.
Whereas here, of course, the price just goes up and up and up. And I was like, no.
I think they're figuring that out because I was telling you I'm going to see Olivia Dean in Vegas this weekend.
Exciting.
And what I forgot to tell you was that, and I forgot to actually tell the two gals that I'm going with, somebody mentioned this to me on the weekend that Olivia Dean was horrified that this was happening in North America, that their ticket reselling, people are making money.
Yeah.
So what she did was she was like, no, screw this. Let's refund everybody and like repurchase their tickets. So I then looked back in my email, lo and behold, in December. So we must have booked this in the fall. In December, I did get an email saying there's been a refund to your credit card because we must have purchased it technically as a resale, even though I was like in the queue. I don't know.
But
something happened. So I have to look at my credit card statement because Olivia Dean sent me money back.
Good on her. It is a terrible system.
It's so crazy. And for the people who are like, you know, like true fans of these types of concerts who just like want to go and see the person that they love and then they're getting gouged. Anyways, we digress. But welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Third time on. We have talked about infant sleep.
Yeah.
We've talked about toddler sleep.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk more about you because you have a great story. Your story is all about making changes, foresight, being like, what's coming in my life and what do I want to prepare for based on the information I have now? What do I think what do I think I want life to look like with kids and all that? You've built a business. You've done mat leaves. It's all looked different, kind of, similar to me. And then you're in the parenting space. So we're going to go into your story. We're going to talk about what we're seeing in the parenting space and decision making. And really, we're just going to yap.
Which is what we do best.
What we do best. So take us back, Georgina. Take us back to... Remind the audience, I think a lot of people have listened to those episodes, but remind people, first of all, who you are today, and then take us back to who you were before kids.
Yes. Yeah. So my name's Georgina Wysiecki. Hard last name to say. And
married that one.
Was not born with that. And I'm a registered social worker and a registered clinical counsellor, and I provide sleep support to families in BC and Ontario and Alberta. And I've been doing this for 4 years now. which is wild, like more than 4 years. And then I have a 5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl and 3 dogs. And we live in North Van. But before that, so I've been supporting families with sleep for 4 years. But before that, I was a registered social worker working for Vancouver Coastal Health. So I moved, you might be able to tell from the accent, I'm not originally from here.
What?
Is this the first time learning this?
Oh my God. Thought this was some southern Canadian town accent.
And so I'm originally from Australia, and I moved here in 2012 and started working for VCH, the Vancouver Coastal Health, local health authority here in Vancouver. And I was a social worker and then got into the operations, like management side, so in mental health and substance use space. And so when I got pregnant with my daughter, I was doing that job. She was born the end of 2019, and then COVID obviously hit in March of 2020, and I had her, and then I got pregnant quite quickly again, thankfully, with my son. So they're only 17 months apart. And I didn't go back in between having the 2 kids because it was COVID, and I was honestly quite anxious going back pregnant to a hospital. And so I didn't go back in between, and then had my son, and then it really dawned on me that my priorities had shifted. Like, I loved my career. I loved my job with Vancouver Coastal Health, but it was 5 days a week, really long hours. I was on the more acute side, so meaning the more hospital-based side. So often we'd have to start our days early because you're in the hospital and there's people in emergency, they need to be admitted or they need community support. So we'd have to look at that early on. Like, it wasn't like a strict 9 to 5 role. And I just couldn't see how that was doable with kids. And we have no family here. And so I thought, okay, I don't want to work full-time these set hours. What are my priorities? And at the time, obviously with a baby and a toddler, I wanted to be home part-time with them. Mm-hmm. How could I make that happen? And through being a parent, I had this fascination with sleep. I love sleep. I have high sleep needs. I need a lot of sleep. Anyone that knows me knows that. And I had 2 very different sleepers, and I was fascinated why they were different. I was bored during COVID. I wanted to use my brain. So I actually went back and started studying when my son, my second child, was only 5 months old. I was doing online study about sleep. And I thought, could I turn this into a bit of a private practice? Because I was registered as a social worker, I could start working privately, but I needed a bit more knowledge. So I went back, studied. By the time he was 12 months old, I was strategic about this. I had an 18-month maternity leave. And I thought, okay, if I go back and start working privately at 12 months, when he's 12 months old, that would give me a 6-month runway to know, could I make enough money to then delay my return to my Vancouver Coastal Health job? And so I started the private practice, and had that 6 months. And while it wasn't, every year my business has grown, so it wasn't what it was, after 6 months that it is now, but I could see that it was, I could make enough money to not go back. And so at the time I was like, okay, and I was very lucky to get another year's leave of absence, so I didn't have to resign from my role at VCH. They were lucky enough to allow that. And I just started doing my private practice.
Well, and it's a series of calculated risks. Mm-hmm. Sure, there has to be a fallback option, of which you're like, we can afford to take this risk for a couple months here. But it was calculated in knowing, like, you knew that a leave of absence was potentially possible. Yeah. You knew that going back to your job was possible. Yes. Like, and it's not to say that it's not brave, because it's extraordinarily brave, but I think it's the piece that people look at these things as so binary or so black and white, as like, oh, you're either like in it or you're not. And there are a lot of situations where you can kind of finesse things and like trial things and see how it goes. And I like that you said that, like, yes, it wasn't right out of the gate you were making what you're making now, but you could see the trajectory. Yeah. You're like, there's something here.
Yes.
Which I think is a huge thing that also people don't talk about enough about. Where with anything, like, it's like when you start, I don't know, your corporate job when you're younger and you're like, and people are like, yeah, you're like, you don't know anything, but like, there's something here.
Yeah.
you've got to like follow those nuggets.
And I could see that there was growth and growth opportunity and it was trending in the right way. I also knew I could always go back to my job at the time I had my job. I also knew my skill set of being a social worker is so in demand. There are lots of roles for me. So I'm fortunate that I have a skill set that I can work privately, but I can always go get another job if needed. And I was like, let's do it, because for me, the priority was having that flexibility. And that still maintains probably my top priority is having flexibility. And so I was willing to take risks to get that flexibility.
Yes. Who were you looking at to see, like, who were some, people or sources of inspiration for you where you were like, okay, that's interesting. This could be something, because I think that even 4 years ago, sleep consultants, I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't have kids, but like, was it a trendy thing? Were there people that you were looking at being like, oh wow, these people are girl bossing it and like going out and creating these businesses?
I think honestly, it was an evolution. I didn't even realize to begin with that when I started doing sleep, that could be something that could be covered by extended health benefits. I didn't know that was an option. And so I knew it would have to be I thought out of pocket for people, which is expensive. It's a chunk of money, especially when you're on, often families I support are on mat leave at the time, so funds are less. But I saw some other people in private, like they weren't like friends who would be in private practice and not necessarily even in social work, but, other allied health professionals like physios, speech therapists. And I could see that they were building a private practice. And I was like, okay, I think this is something that I could do. And then in actually speaking to some of them, so I'm shameless with like reaching out to people and being like, can I chat with you? Like, how have you got this? How have you done it? And was so grateful that they gave me their time. So I try to give back in the opposite way now. If people ask me to chat about how I've built the business, very open about it. But then through having these conversations, they said, well, you are a registered social worker. You are providing to families within the scope of that. This can be covered by extended health benefits. And when that clicked in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm onto something here.
Yes.
People won't have to pay out of pocket.
Can you share with me how you navigated people? I know you've shared with me privately and you're a very open person, but there's been people who have said like, oh, well, you've only been successful because of that, because it is something that is, you're able to, oh my God, why is it?
Have it covered
have it covered by extended health. Which I have so many thoughts on your behalf about that. But like, how do you navigate like the way that people attribute what success is like directed at you, friends, family, just like the off comment?
I mean, for sure, that's right. But that's like doctors are only successful because there's a health system that pays them.
People have to go to you.
Like, that it is what it is.
Yeah.
And like use the systems that you have available to you to benefit you. There's no shame in that. There's even friends who I think forget that I have a business because they think I think people often attribute businesses to be like more product based. And so, no, I don't have a product. I have a service that I provide. And you have to build a business around that. And so people are like, oh, so I guess you do have a business. And I'm like, yes. Oh, yes, I do. And it's more than just like little pocket money on the side. Like, I had to make money.
Yes.
It had to be financially successful for me to not go back to work. Like, I need to work for our family.
Yes.
So I don't really care what other people think. I think this is like the joy of being in my 40s. I really don't care.
Yeah.
And so if people think, oh, well, it's only because of this, oh, well, great. And if the system changes, then I would pivot and change. You stay the course because it's working for you now. And if it's not working for your family or your business, you pivot and change.
Yeah. It's so true. What would you tell the person who might be in a job where they're like, wait a minute, there could be a way that I could take this and do my own thing with it? Like the person who's just so nervous. Because I think I would personally see social worker at first blush and be like, yeah, how do you turn that into a private practice? But you did it. And it's like it's so obvious. What would you tell the person who maybe has a skill set that like is transferable, but they can't quite see it yet, or they feel nervous, or they're like, I want to do it, but how?
I think you need to really know what is the problem that you're trying to solve for someone, or the transformation you're trying to help that person get through. So people pay for change. They pay for transformation. And I have a very hyper-specific niche that I think actually having a niche is very beneficial because it makes you able to clearly articulate to people what you do so they understand what you're doing and how that is either relevant or not relevant to them. So find out what the problem is. So for me, it's families that aren't sleeping, and whatever that means to them, aren't sleeping enough, sleep is not working for them right now, and how can we get them? And so, like the tagline that I have for my business is everyone can have a happy and well-rested family. And so that's going to look different for some people. For some people that might be, I need my child to not wake at night. Or another family, it might be, I just need there to be less wakes. I want a bed share. How can I do this safely and feel rested when I wake up in the morning? And so get very clear on what is the problem that you're trying to solve and then work backwards from there. Versus just being like, I have these skill sets, I can help you. That's too broad. Like you have to know exactly what it is that
100%.
you're the change or transformation for a problem that you're fixing.
Love that. What is new in sleep that we should be knowing about? The listeners are now, I did a poll recently on Instagram and it was like, who are you? What stage of life are you in? Me thinking everyone is me. And that everyone has like school age kids or like, and it is a mixed bag. We've got people who are first-time parents. We have people who have really little ones and people who have school-age kids. I don't know, is there anything different from the last time you came on that has changed within sleep or is kind of resurging as a topic that we should be, contemplating, considering?
I think the biggest thing is you just need to do what works for your family and know that there's options and there's not just one way to do something. Don't look at other people. Really keep your eyes on your family and what works for your situation. So that might be bed sharing, that, it's okay to support your kids to sleep. Like my thing is sleep. I lay with my kids to fall asleep. I like being able to do that. Our bed the kids have their own beds, but they are always welcome in our bed if they want. Like we have an open bed policy for the kids if they want to come in.
Sounds raunchy.
But I want them to know it's a safe space and that is okay for us. Some people that's not. Some people don't sleep well with kids in their beds. And knowing that there's not a golden magic way to do it. Like if I had a magic wand or a series of steps that solved all sleep problems, I'd be a billionaire. We'd all be doing it. We'd all be sleeping well. There's many ways to get there. And I think being at peace with that and knowing there's many ways to get there, I think is the biggest thing.
How do I ask this? I guess it just feels like everything gets so buzzy or like we get so intense and hung up on certain things. Maybe as new information or research comes out and we get excited, which is a great thing. Evolution is great. And then we get really excited about a topic. Like I remember when I had Addie and the sleep schedules were a really big thing and everyone was buying the different like PDFs and the sleep schedules and this and that. And again, I think that it's a trend because I was going through that time. However, maybe this was a thing before, so correct me if I'm wrong. But we get really like regimented on stuff. Or it's like, the research comes out that everyone should sleep 8 hours and everyone gets like really like hung up on these things. How do you talk to families who are like, coming to you and they're trying to make something work that is clearly not?
I think the biggest misinformation out there is that every baby needs to sleep the same amount. I think I was just away on the weekend with friends who have kids who are older and like 10 plus, and they didn't know that every child needs to sleep a different amount. And that varies. And so a lot of the information out there is catered towards high sleep needs kids. So kids that need a lot of sleep. So if your child, like the average stretch of sleep overnight is 9 to 11 hours. And if you're trying to have your baby sleep 12 hours at night, but they only need 9 hours, that is a recipe for disaster. And so truly understanding that every child, every adult, we all have a different sleep need is really important. And there's no perfect schedule. So you do not have to have your kid in bed at 7 o'clock at night. If that works for your family rhythm and it works for their sleep need, amazing. But many families do better with a later bedtime And that is okay. And don't feel shame or judgment from people because your kids go to bed later. If that works for them and you, great.
I saw something on Instagram recently that was using the word morality. And I wish that I had, if I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. But it was so phenomenal. And it was like, don't take the fact of something and apply morality to it.
Yeah.
In this case, it would be like, okay, your kid thrives going to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Don't associate some sort of like moral failing on your part or on the child's part because of that fact.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And there's so much diversity, and every family, every child is different.
Yeah.
And people think they're failing. Like, oh, why is my kid not sleeping this? And they do better. And often families will say like, oh, I know I have a later bedtime. It's not ideal. I'm like, who told you that's not ideal? Like, that's fine. You know, some families like starting their days early and going to bed early. Some like starting later. I had a family that wanted to wake up at 4 a.m. because they did shift work, and it meant they could spend time with their kids, and they went to bed early. I'm like, great, you do you. Like, it's whatever works. But again, it's matching the sleep need with your family rhythms.
Yes. Yes. Well, and sometimes you have to. So I'm thinking about, okay, if my family worked better, we're all early sleepers, but if my family worked better later, what that would mean for me is that I'd have to take that information and decide, okay, if that's really what actually does work for all of us to have a really good night's sleep, that would mean that I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym.
Yes.
So I would have to, like, that's hard. I think we should acknowledge that too. That sometimes you have to take these types of facts and acknowledge that, like, I kind of wish it was different.
100%.
And that's okay.
Totally.
Like, you're allowed to want things to be different than they are.
Like, I have one of my children is high sleep needs, and so she needs a lot of sleep. And so I have to protect her sleep. And if I don't protect it, she has a really hard time staying regulated the next day. And so it's not worth it for her. It's not worth it for me, because my life is not enjoyable when that happens. And I get judgment from that. It's like, oh, just let them stay up later. It's fine. They can go to bed later. And it's like, I've tried that. It doesn't work for her, and it doesn't work for our family. So we protect her bedtime.
Yeah.
And so that means sometimes saying no to things. I'm okay with that. Yeah. You know, every family and child is different. Do what works for you, and just let people do what they want to do.
Do you think there's an element of the trial and error in that too?
Absolutely.
Because people might look at you and say, you're so regimented, you're so strict, you're so this or that. I know that, like, that's what you're saying too. But it's not because you've never been willing to try. Yeah. You've tried it.
And it hasn't gone well.
Yeah. I think there is a bit of an issue. Again, there's no moral failing, but I do believe in trial and error.
Absolutely. You have to experiment. And I think people, especially with sleep, are so scared to experiment. They think the wheels will fall off. I'm like, try. What's the worst that happens? You don't have a good night. The next day's maybe a bit tricky. You can reset and move on, you know, but try. And also, as your kids grow. So saying this about my daughter who's 6, maybe when she's 8 or 9 or 10, she can do later bedtimes, and we'll trial again. We're open to trying different things. But also, if you know something works for your family, just you can also stick with it.
Totally. Yeah. If she started waking up super, super early.
Yeah, would shift her bedtime.
Well, then you'd be like, okay, well, maybe this isn't fun for us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like the 4 a.m. wake up.
So speaking of moving, you know, so you've built this beautiful career, and we've talked about the different ways in which you support families and sleep and all of that. You yourself, talking about, you know, things changing.
Yes.
In your family and in your household, you your family's gone through a diagnosis recently. Yeah. Can you explain to us a bit about that? We were talking on the way over. We drove over together. We were talking about how there's this unrepresented, middle ground of, children who have, some additional supports that are required. Yeah. And sometimes we talk about the really extreme versions. Yeah. And then we talk about the kids who are, say, neurotypical. Yeah. And then there's this population of probably a lot of listeners here where you're like, things are good. And you get a diagnosis and you're navigating that process. Can you share with us that experience for you?
One of my kids has just been diagnosed with level 1 autism. So it's not really a surprise to us. Looking back at their development, there's always been little signs that something has been struggles. So a lot of sensory stuff, a lot of difficulty with regulation, changes, transitions. And so I they're doing really well in school. So it didn't come from a school perspective. It was us at the family seeing these meltdowns at home, and just, my approach to parenting is I want to know that I have done everything to best support my kids. And I felt that there was a missing piece and more that we could do. And so we sought out the assessment. Luckily, my husband's benefits are amazing. So they were able to cover the whole assessment, because it is expensive getting private assessments.
Okay, so it was a private assessment.
Private
so take us back. What was first? Step one was GP?
No. So I
you're also in this space too.
Yes.
So let's caveat that. But
yes.
yeah, okay.
So it wasn't. So I mean, I still had to ask a lot of people. So I'm very fortunate to have lots of friends who have already walked this path. And so I leaned on them heavily about what is the process? What do you need to do to look into this? And so you can go privately to a psychologist to get an autism diagnosis. So I wasn't even sure it was necessarily autism. I was wondering, was there potentially some ADHD? Were they gifted as well? Like, what, I wasn't sure. So I went for a very thorough assessment with a psychologist that did looked at everything. And so that's private. So you do have to pay out of pocket. It can be covered by Extended Health. And it was about a 6-week process to get assessed. So there was conversation with me, like it was an assessment, but parent assessment, and then 3 in-person assessments with my child and the psychologist. Had to get reports from teachers. My child also works with a speech therapist, so their input. And all this information together then leads to a diagnosis or not. And so we had got the diagnosis, and now we are working with the school. It's an ongoing process. So school's obviously out for summer, to have her supported more at school through an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. So how can the school best support her given this diagnosis? And then it gives us some tools to be like, okay, the scaffolding that we have put around her, so the supports that we have put around her since birth, honestly, have been for a reason. And looking at those supports, are they the right supports? Do we need to put in more supports at home? Because I've got at least a bit of a direction now.
Yes. It's like doing a blood test panel and being like, oh, I was throwing all these vitamins at things and some of them were working, but I wasn't exactly sure which ones were working against which, markers of the blood test.
Yeah.
You're kind of just throwing stuff at it, but now you're like, okay, so based on a child with autism, it's so many people have walked before. Yeah. So there's like research you can follow. Yes. There's tools that are more specific to that than someone with ADHD, for instance.
Yes. Yeah. And even with an autism diagnosis, autism looks different for every single child. So what is your child needing? What is their presentation? And it's also going to evolve as they get older. And I think, fortunately for me, because, my background is I've got a Bachelor of Psychology, I've got a Master of Social Work, I was aware of child development. So I was able to just innately put in supports and alter my parenting to best support her. But I have limitations. Like I need all the support I can get. Yeah. So, me having my own psychologist now to help me best parent, knowing it's okay to parent the kids differently, and what can I do more of or less of to help the situation is really important for me, but then also wrapping supports around her so that she can be best supported in and outside of school. And then that has a direct impact to me and my work, because I want to be able to take her to all these appointments, have the flexibility to do that. One of the things we really struggled with was school drop-offs, like a bit of school refusal. And so I will do anything to be the one to drop her off to school and to do it in not a rushed way. So we get to school 20 to 30 minutes early. And then we're very lucky, our school is surrounded by nature, so we can go for a trail walk and just have one-on-one time. It will change in September because my youngest will be joining us for school now. But having it in a not rushed way really then helps her be ready for school versus just doing like the drop and run. And so I want my work to be flexible enough that I can do that, and that is needed.
So your child gets an autism diagnosis, which you're saying in hindsight, sure, there were signs.
Yeah.
We weren't wildly surprised, but it is still, I imagine, landing on you as a boom.
Yeah.
Here is this piece of information.
Mhm.
How did you, just as a human being, not as Georgina, the social worker, not as, the counselor, like how did you as a human being, as a parent, take that information in?
I mean, I think I cried for about 2 weeks straight, which was odd. I was very surprised by my reaction because I wasn't surprised, but I think just because it was like, okay, this is what it is. It doesn't change who she is.
No.
It doesn't change, but I'm like, okay, life may be a little bit harder for her during moments. And I think as parents, we just want our kids' lives to be as easy as possible. I don't know, maybe not everyone, but I want my kids' lives to be
Yes, we all
easy,
want our, yeah.
and so I'm like, okay, there's going to be some struggles. It's going to be maybe a little bit harder in some perspectives. And I think it was more like grieving potentially that. Also what it looks like for our family. Because I think in the back of our mind, I was always wondering, was it something that this will like you grow out of or it'll change? And it will still change and evolve, but knowing that for our family, going back to the accommodations we've had to make, they're probably not going to go away, and this is how our family will have to be structured to best support them.
Yeah.
Like not having a late bedtime.
Yeah.
I liked
what you said earlier about bringing in, you're like, I'm just one, you and you have an incredible husband as well. Like you're like, we're just two people.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You have this background that is, I'm sure, extremely helpful in this space because you worked in mental health.
Yeah.
In a different way, of course. But I liked how you said that, like, why not bring more people into the fold?
Totally.
Like, why not get the school involved? Because unfortunately, like they only have so many resources. But if you get things like a diagnosis, I understand. Yes. Then they can be like, yeah, we want to help you as much as we can, but we can only go so far.
Totally.
You get that piece of paper or the diagnosis and they're like, great, we know how to handle this. Like we've got a system for helping you.
And it means that they can have more supports that they might not have been able to have. But I also, and this is what going back to sleep, I always say to families, I have a very low threshold for reaching out for support. You do not get a medal at the end of life for doing things by yourself. So I am like, if I can get supports in, if I can get other expertise in, I will do that. It can only help.
So true. So true. Pivoting over to just parenting in general and what you're seeing now, we're kind of like, we're moving beyond sleep, and we've talked about the diagnosis that your family has received and just parenting in general. I'm so curious because you and I talk about things like this as pals, but in the parenting space, what are you seeing? What are you hearing from parents? I assume that you're kind of in the zeitgeist in the fact that you have parents coming to you, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, saying things like, well, I saw this thing on TikTok about sleep. Or I saw this. What are some of those things that you're just in general, sleep related or not, that you're hearing from parents where you're like, huh, interesting. There's some like
I think, one of the big things that, I use ChatGPT for things, but everyone's using ChatGPT to solve all problems.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes people think that there's this new wealth of knowledge that ChatGPT has. I'm like, there's no new wealth of knowledge. It's just a different way of getting that information. They're still pulling it from the internet that we had. So instead of Googling it, we're using ChatGPT. There's not a magic solution hidden in there. So I think some parents sometimes think that there is. And it's a great way of getting information, recording information. Like, I love it. But there's nothing really new from it. So I find that interesting. But then I think the biggest thing is that we are really the first generation. I'm a bit older than you, but, within sort of people in their 30s and 40s who are having both parents work. I think a lot of us, not everyone, but a lot of us had one parent at home when we were growing up. So it was very much, there was the working out of the home and then the stay-at-home parent. But how do we navigate having two working parents, parenting, and that's new. And it's not like we can go and ask, our parents, how did you manage it? I also think this generation, we're much more open about saying things are hard and being open about the struggles versus just being that stoic, doing it and not talking about how hard it is. So I think really navigating that balance, which is like a lot of what you do, is how do you support parents to have that balance, but whatever that balance means for them, not like the perfect balance. And I think that's huge right now.
It's so true. You're making me think of, I feel like whenever I have conversations like this, I think of like a new way of looking at it. And I've never really thought about the ease of the conversations between partners 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Not easy, because you might have one parent who's like, I don't want to work.
Yeah.
The dad might have been like, I don't want to work. And the mom might have been like, oh my God, I would kill to work.
Yeah.
And they didn't have choice there.
Yeah.
Or, societally, like it was tricky, sticky. But how nice would it have been to just know what your role was?
100%.
That's kind of I know that's like we've gone
100%.
past there. There was a lot of women that fought for this to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah.
But I'm just purely thinking of it from that perspective of like sitting down and being like, well, I do the dishes. Well, I bring home the money.
Totally.
Like,
totally.
There's
Very
way
clear.
less conversation
Yeah.
negotiation that has to happen.
100%. Because it is, and I think there was, aside from not having choice and all of that, I think there was some ease about having very defined roles because you knew what was yours.
We're going to get canceled.
I know. I am not saying,
No.
I'm not going to the trad wife conversation.
No, not at all. I'm just like,
it's because you have to share more. Have you and Scotty ever done the Fair Play?
I had
board
Valerie
game?
Recor came on this podcast. She's a fair play expert,
Okay.
and we spoke with it. So I had him listen to the episode, and then we had a really good conversation. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I never read Eve Rodsky's book, and I don't have the card deck either.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
And you can.
But we actually kind of just did it. We use it as a template. And so I actually send the episode to a lot of clients, a lot of friends, and be like, hey, listen to this, and then use the concept of it.
Yes.
As template. But explain to the audience what the fair play method is.
I didn't read the book, but I got the cards. So the concept is that you have all these tasks that need to be done when you're in a family. And often a lot of it is unseen. And so it's really laying out. So every card represents, for example, like doing the grocery shopping, who does the laundry, who organize, doctor's appointment for the kids, who gets the kids to school, who does birthday parties. Like there's many, many examples. And then laying them all out. And so what you do first is you actually separate them according to who has responsibility over that. I mean, some people do joint responsibility. Often there's like a role that's more for you or for them. And so you do that first. Then you look at and it's a bit tricky because some tasks actually take a lot of time. For example, like cooking every day for your meals is just one card, but actually that represents a lot of time. So you've sort of got to be a little bit, it's not just about the number of cards.
Yes.
Are you happy with that division? Are you not happy with that division? Do you have some cards, some tasks that you don't like, that you would like to not do? And then how can you have it more evenly distributed? So in our family, I do a lot of tasks that are invisible. Like I do all life organizing, I do all life admin, I pay most of the bills, I organize our holidays, I do all the registration for the kids, anything, appointments. Like that's an invisible task because like I'm at the computer doing it or I'm on my phone. Whereas my husband, who is a very equal partner in our relationship, but does a lot of things that are practical and can be seen. Like he mows the lawn. He does all the food shopping. He does all the cooking in our family. I don't cook. He prepares the kids' lunch boxes, things that are very practical and can be seen. And so sometimes even in our relationship, I have to just make sure that the jobs that I'm doing that are invisible are seen and acknowledged because they're not as visible. Mm-hmm. So we do this about every 6 months. We just go through it and be like, is there something we don't want? And I'm a control freak, so I don't want to give up a lot of my jobs. Like I like doing a lot of them.
But you want to be patted on the back.
Yeah, I want to be like, oh, it's like that's a lot. And he's fantastic. He
my God,
very
he's
much
the best.
Acknowledges that. But it's a really cool way when you've got this world now where you don't have these traditional roles. Yeah. Is it working for you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. It is such a wicked concept. And I have said this probably 5 times on the podcast, but I've used the example of after that episode and after understanding this whole concept, I think it was Valerie who said, the layer deeper, and when you read the book and et cetera, but just listen to the episode, honestly, buy Eve Rodsky's book. She's awesome. But the whole concept is like the taking out the trash is not just taking out the trash, it's also buying the garbage bags.
100%.
When I heard that statement, like not even a light bulb, these lights in the studio came on where I was like, whoa, I have never thought about it that way. Yeah. And if I'm the one who does all the shopping, which I do, like all the shopping anywhere, that means that it needs to be delegated to me.
Mhm.
I can't read, like Scotty is the garbage guy, for instance.
Yes.
However, if he needs garbage bags, he can either go and buy them or he has to very clearly have me put it somewhere so that I will then buy them.
Yeah.
Or just buy them. You know what I mean? But it's like, but that's another thing that like we'd be walking, you know, around the kitchen or whatever, early days of parenting, you'd be like, oh, we're out of this. Oh, we're out of that. And I just, one day I was like, stop.
Yeah.
I can't remember all this.
Yeah.
We don't have a system for where this goes. And you're now taking it out of your brain and putting it in my brain.
Yeah.
So now I'm part of the garbage.
Yes.
And I don't want to be part of the garbage. No. I don't want to be part of the garbage. I do it all. You know, I do like, I'm like doing the meal prep and the cooking, blah, 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 and I'm like, ah!
And that's where something like using technology can be helpful. Like use ChatGPT to have like a grocery list, or like we do a notes app, a shared notes app. So if I rarely notice we're out of anything. That's not really my domain. But in theory, I would put it in and say, we need this. And then it goes into the shopping list. So it's not just telling someone and putting it on them. Because you just feel like, oh, I've said that now.
Yes, so it's gone.
Not my problem anymore, but you've made it someone else's problem.
Exactly. It's so fascinating. And then the other use for this whole concept is Scotty and I recently did a day where we went to my co-working space. Yeah. And we got a boardroom and the whiteboard. And I basically did the process that I do with my clients with Scotty. And it was really particularly around, so when I work with my clients in a VIP day, it's usually around career and work and what are your next steps, you're coming or going, whatever. So for us, our topic was life planning for the next 18 months. Yeah. And we were like, hey, we've got a lot of really fun stuff coming up. And
a lot of change.
We've got kindergarten coming. We've got little guy going to preschool. Yeah. What does this mean for our nanny? What does this mean for our house, et cetera, et cetera. And what was really cool with that is it wasn't, for us, the issues where we were foreseeing issues popping up with all of the changes happening and all the travel we have coming. These are all really like unusual things. It wasn't the day-to-day. Our day-to-day feels really good and like we've got a really great rhythm, but it was like, okay, we know we're going to be coming and going from travel. Yeah. I'm traveling quite a bit here and there and everywhere. And so how are we going to manage all that? So we put it up on the whiteboard and then we said, okay, so based on this, what has to happen? And an example of this was like we take Scotty's mom and dad to Theater Under the Stars in Stanley Park in Vancouver. And we're like, okay, great. That's going to happen in July or August. And then I was like, okay.
But when?
Who's booking that? Yeah. When is it happening? Who's reaching out for the dates? And so we put basically everything up on the whiteboard and almost everything on the whiteboard, because it was all the invisible tasks, which I also am in charge of. It was all me. Yeah. I would have to be reaching out to them to say, when are you available? I'd have to look at the theater, whatever schedule, buy the tickets, et cetera. And Scotty was like, whoa, okay, give that one to me. Okay, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this one. Yeah. Because it was getting to the point where like, yeah, we feel so good with like the cards, but then it was all the extraneous. Yeah. Is that the word? Extraneous. Yes. Yeah. Stuff. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is an unlock too. Yeah. And that was really fun.
Well, it's a similar process that I do for my business even, is I look at the next 6 months and go, okay, what is happening in our lives? How do I want my work week to look? How much do I want to work? How much do I need to work? 'Cause, still got to make money. And, an example is my son is going to be starting kindergarten. So I've had a child home with me part-time for the last 6.5 years. I'm now going to have 5 days a week between 8:45 and 3 o'clock. Where I don't have a child. And so it gives me a bit more flexibility, but I still have just those school hours. So how do I want my week to look like? I like having consistency. And how does our, again, one of our priorities is that one of us, my husband or I, will drop our kids off to school and pick our kids up from school. And so how do we make that look? And so then you work backwards from that. Yes. Have a plan of what you want it to be. Yeah. And then how do you make that happen versus just going along hoping it works. Yeah. I need to work backwards.
Well, and see, that gives me, I love that you're bringing that up because you and I are so different in a lot of, like, I don't really have a plan for my week. My weeks are different. We have very different businesses, for sure. Like your business is when you work for an hour, you get paid for that hour. Yes. Mine can be a bit different in a lot of ways. And but what you're like, you even have a really not like a structured life and a structured business. Yeah. But even you are like, yeah, but there's going to be different school holidays. Yes. We're going to have visitors. Yes. We're going to be doing this. We want to go back to Australia. Like, I think that everybody has to, I always say, like, zoom out and look at that and don't feel shame. Like, I beat myself up all the time. I'm like, why are our weeks like so different here and there? And I try to put one plan in place. when does that actually work?
It doesn't.
It
never,
doesn't.
like, it never works, but it's like the backbone, and then there's always going to be change.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yes.
But you start from there, and then you can, and like I also like to zoom out and look at like a month or 2 at a time versus a week. Because even like if I'm looking at like revenue or how many hours do I want to work, it's not going to look the same every week.
No way.
Like this week I've only got one child because the other child's with the grandparents. Like even that, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, this free time, what am I going to do?
Podcast. We're going to a head spa after
I'm
this.
so excited.
Is that what they're called?
I think they're called a head spa.
Japanese head spa, where it's like the thing with the water that you see on Instagram. I went a couple of years ago. Georgina just like signed me up.
Yeah.
It's taken us 2 years to do this.
Yes, it has. But we've got a bit more time.
We've got more time. Let's also talk about friendship. Like, I consider you one of my best friends. We see each other so infrequently and we live so close to each other. And I'm okay with that. And I know you are too.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why our friendship works, because we don't have these like
realistic expectations.
Unreasonable expectations of one another or ourselves.
But I could call you at 3 a.m. and you would be there in a heartbeat.
100%.
Yeah.
You're like, I was on a boat all weekend. I was like, I thought you just went for a boat ride. You're like, no, I was like out, like on a boat sleeping.
Yeah.
I was like, incredible.
Yeah.
And so for you, like, how is that, how has friendship changes like happened for you? You also live away from a lot of friends.
Yeah.
You've lived all over the world.
Well, I think that for me, you don't have to be in someone's physical space to maintain a relationship. Like my best friends are the girls that I went to high school with. I've known from I was 11, and I see them once a year. We go back to Australia once a year. I see them for once a year, and we have been friends for over 30 years now. We've maintained that friendship electronically.
Yes.
I basically left Adelaide straight after. I mean, I was around a bit, but I haven't lived in Adelaide for 15 years now. But you don't have to be in each other's space. Stay in contact. When you do have time with someone, make it count. But we're busy, and that's okay.
That's okay.
I
know. People, I
did prefer it when we both weren't as busy and we could spend more time together.
I know. We're like, let's go here today. Okay.
Which was lovely. But,
that's
nice.
Not,
you don't take it personally if someone's busy.
No.
I just love when we're texting each other and messaging each other on DMs, and we've got two different
like always. And it's like something so serious in one of them, and then the other one was like a cat video. It's like the most relatable thing though.
So good.
I love it. What would you say you're figuring out in this season? You're about to have 2 kids going into who will be in school.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but what else? Like, what are you trying to figure out right now?
It's a really good question. I think now that the growth of my business has like really got there, it's more like maintaining, so I'm not feeling like the pressure to grow, which is a really nice place to be. But then what do I want to do that's for me that is outside of work? And I don't, outside of work and family. Like what? Because if I think about my work week, when my kids are not at school, I don't want to be working the whole time. So when my kids are in school, I don't want to be working the whole time.
Yeah.
I want to have time for me, but what do I want to do with that time?
Well, and I know you're really good about like Mondays you do your appointments and things like that. And that's also something people don't talk about enough. And I've actually been feeling pressure. And yes, we are acknowledging privilege in this conversation that we're about to have. But like appointments aren't hobbies.
No.
Appointments are not interest points. Like, yes, like I was talking to Scotty about this yesterday about how it was like, God, there's a week where like this week I'm going to get my nails done and this and that. And I'm like, what a funny thing to be like spending time doing that. And he was like, oh, he's the best. And he was like, okay, but you can't be working all the time.
No.
And what does it do for you? As if he asked me this question. It was, what does it do for you to get your nails done? I'm like, well, if I don't have my nails done, I'm either picking at them or I'm painting them furiously the night before I have something.
Yeah.
Or I'm fussing with them.
Yeah.
And when I have my nails done,
it's
I don't fuss with them for a month, and it's a thing that's completely out of my mind.
Which is so valuable.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So to me, it's not a hobby. Like
no.
I used to be such a treat when I couldn't afford it. And now it's kind of a bit of maintenance because it keeps other things in my life going. So are you talking about like interest pieces or hobbies or like what are you talking about?
I think so. Like I mean, my favorite thing on the world is to get my hair done. And I used to get it done every week. I don't anymore, but that would be lovely. But not even just self-care stuff. It's like, what do I like reading? So I read a book this weekend And I love reading, but I don't make the time for it in my everyday life. So maybe it is actually taking my Kindle around with me and reading more because I love reading. I know it's like a boring hobby, but I love reading. But is it like actually finding a hobby? I don't know. I don't actually know. So this is like I need to think about with these pockets of time because for me, if I don't have an intention for this time, I'll just waste it.
Everyone's like that.
And so what do I want to – so basically I'm getting a Friday back now because I'd normally spend Fridays with my son. What am I going to do on my Fridays? I don't want to work on the Fridays. No. I don't. And so what can I do with that time where it's not just going to be wasted? And I don't have the answer to that.
Does it have to be filled or do you feel comfortable with flexibility of just having it like I actually don't have a plan and like I can kind of go week by week?
Totally.
Yeah.
And also it gives me a bit of a buffer. Like if a kid's sick and I couldn't work, I can fill at time or, things like that. But I feel like I need to have the occasional something in there. And I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm not someone that can do something at night. Like I live in the forest. Once I'm home, I'm never leaving the forest. You will never get me to go out.
This is why she moved to the forest. So she could say, no, I shan't leave the forest.
I can't leave the forest. It's only, I joked on the weekend. I was like, I used to sneak out of the house to go out at night. You could not pay me to leave my house at night right now.
Okay, but there's some really good musicals coming that I'm going to drag you out for.
No, I will.
You'll come to the musicals.
Yes,
you'll come
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I think, and I don't know. I don't have the answer to what I'm trying to figure out, but I want to do something that's more about me, not about working, not about family, just me. And I don't know what that is yet, but I want to figure it out.
Well, I have a podcast episode on hobbies and figuring out what hobbies you want. It was from years ago, two or 3 years ago.
Listen to it.
No,
right,
I'm going to really early days.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually don't even remember what I said on it. So
what's your hobby? Well, if someone said to you, what are your hobbies?
The first thing I would say is what I used to do is I was in musical theater. Yeah. I did this. I did that. Like I did piano. I was really in the arts. I played sports, basketball. But today, I'm like, it feels like my business has
taken over that space.
It's not a hobby. Okay, I don't think people should conflate, a business, being a business owner, especially a female business owner with a hobby, because I think there is that's a whole,
I think, yes.
People get undercut.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it. And I enjoy things like going to, my friend Emily's dinners or something like that, because I'm like, as if this actually is helping me. I get really cool clients or podcast guests out of coming to these types of things, and I fucking enjoy it.
Because you're an extrovert. You love people.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to do anything for 3 days because I do need to also hibernate. Yeah. But that's not, but that
is that a hobby?
No, it's not. And I think I'm in the same where I've been listening to just different podcasts or people talking. I actually follow this woman, Lydia Millen Gordon, online. It is so funny that I've gotten into YouTube, watching people's YouTubes.
I love that.
This was a thing 10 years ago. I don't know that people actually just find YouTube in their late 30s, but I have done this. And she's very popular in the UK. I don't know how many people know her here. But anyways, she's a big gardener and she's all about making a house a home. And I know those are hobbies, but there's something, it's very intentional though. So it's not just let's buy stuff. It's there's just this whimsy to it.
I love
that I really like. Or pottery. A client I was working with recently, she's
do you want to do a pottery class?
Yes. Yes.
Is that our hobby?
Yes. Touch clay.
Let's do it.
Let's touch clay on Fridays.
I'm sure there's a pottery class we can
There
find.
is near us. They've got a wheel at the community center near Georgina and I.
Yeah. All right. We've just found a new hobby.
But
isn't it?
Doesn't it? I actually feel like I can breathe saying pottery.
Well, just doing something for no other reason than you want because you enjoy it. I mean, I know how we got to this place because we had children and they take up so much time.
No, they don't. Georgina, please.
And so I can see how we got to this point.
Yeah, of course.
But now our kids are older.
Yeah.
We're not in the trenches.
No.
How can we build in some time for us?
Before kids, a lot of us, oh my God, it was work. I worked like an effing dog in my early, mid, late 20s. Had a couple years and my hobby was maybe being a newlywed and just having fun with Scotty and
going out,
travel,
going to restaurants.
doing things and whatever. And And we had hobbies in there, but they were kind of fitness related. Like
Yeah.
there's such a thing, right? Like you just got all this time but yeah, then you've got kids. And I think it's another one of those situations where like, I don't know why I feel like I keep wanting to say this today, but like no shame.
No.
Like we beat ourselves up so much. It's like I was listening to Beyond the Bump, an Australian podcast this morning.
Love it.
She's talking about like, they were just gabbing about, the phone and like, oh, I spend so much time on my phone. And it's like, but no shame. They were like, but no shame because first of all, these devices are kind of just like, they weren't designed for the purpose of being addictive, but they just are.
100%.
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Just, okay, be more intentional. Like, it's okay. Don't regret.
Well, I don't care that I
Like-
didn't have a hobby for the last 6 years.
No.
But now I'm like ready for
Now
it.
you're like craving it.
Yeah.
Which is such a cool sign.
Yeah.
I'm craving more coffee. So like, is that one of my, what does that say?
I think it's interesting.
It's so interesting. Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you for having me.
This was so nice.
This
It was
was fun.
so cathartic. I like getting like kind of going all over the place with you.
We could chat all day.
And we actually didn't talk that much. It was only a 20-minute drive over here.
Yeah.
So you really got a good catch up with just us two. So
Thanks for having me.
come back on soon, please.
I will.
Thank you.